Congressman Michele Bachmann, thanks for being our guest.
Michael, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be on the show to share the joy that you must be feeling right now before you go to China and get your second child.
No, Ethiopia.
Oh, Ethiopia.
Yeah, it's okay. You know what? If I had to be keeping your schedule, I wouldn't remember my own name, so don't worry about that.
Well, listen, I'm thrilled. We have friends of ours that have also adopted from Ethiopia, and what beautiful, beautiful children.
You know, they really are beautiful people. We're presenting a class. We're presenting a little lecture to my son's school tomorrow on Ethiopia because the children have to pick a country, and so my son picked Ethiopia. And it's a beautiful place. Let's talk about being a foster parent, and then I want to talk a little bit about the presidential election. But you've been a foster parent, and you've really brought the issue to the forefront, which I think is pretty neat. How'd you get involved with that?
Well, actually, it was through a couple in our church who were doing foster parenting of teenagers. And we observed what this couple was doing, and my husband and I looked at each other. I was expecting our fourth baby. I was working as a federal tax attorney. My husband had finished his doctorate work, and we were just at the point where I was going to be able to stay home full-time, and he was going to have his practice. And so we thought, as long as I'm going to stay home, and our hearts were pricked to think of what we could do to advantage these children, we thought, why not give it a try? And we were nervous. We didn't know if we'd be able to do it because our biological children were little. They were small children. We'd never parented teenagers before. And so we decided we'll go ahead and give it a try. We took our first child, who came to us from a homeless shelter, and it was such a delightful experience. It wasn't even 2 months, and we got a phone call, would we take another? And we said, sure, we did. And it wasn't very long. We got a phone call, would we take another? And we said, sure, we would. And then we got a phone call, would we take another? So within about 6 months, we had 4 foster teenage daughters, and then we had 4 biological children. And through the years, we had another biological child, so we had 5 biologicals. But over the years, we had 23 foster children, all of whom were teenagers, all of whom were the last stop. They weren't going to go home, but they also needed one final foster home to be in to get through high school. So we had them for, on average, 2 years. And our job was to make sure they graduated from high school and successfully launched into the world. And I have to tell you, it was challenging, but it was an excellent experience for everyone in the family. Our biological children learned very quickly that they weren't the only people in the world, that the world's a lot bigger place. And I think for my husband and I, we learned how to do parenting with teenagers, which was a blessing. We learned what to make important, what wasn't important. And for the foster children, it was good because we're not a perfect family, but they were able to see what a mom and dad who love each other look like and how a family functions, an intact family. And it was a very good experience for them. So it's not for everyone, but I encourage people, even if you don't think you could do it, challenge yourself. You might be surprised at how your heart can fill with love for these great kids who need love so much.
Congressman Michele Bachmann, it's interesting. I could listen to you talk about that forever. It is. You make it sound so easy, and obviously it's not. How long did those young ladies stay with you? Of those first 4, how long did they stay with you?
The first one stayed, I would say, 3 years. And the next one stayed, various periods of time. It just depended on the unique circumstance. They were all from our state of Minnesota, and we worked with a private foster care agency. Kids came from all over the state, but they were placed in our home. And the reason why we went with a private agency is because then we only worked with one social worker. And that social worker worked with all the multiplicity of social workers from around the state. And that way we were in a support group with other foster parents so that when we had situations come up that we didn't know how to handle, we had a network of about 4 or 5 other couples that we could talk to, some of whom had been foster parents for 25 and 30 years. So they were old hands and veterans. And I'll tell you one thing I saw about people in foster care, they have a great sense of humor. Easygoing, great sense of humor, absolute devotion to these children. They would die for these kids. And what we saw, too, is that every single one of them felt like they were so blessed and like their lives were enriched by having poured themselves out for these kids. And guess what? we found the same result in our own hearts too. And that's why I would say, you don't think that your heart can expand after you have one baby. You think our biological baby, you think, oh, we could never love our second one as much as we love our first one, and then you find out you can. And it's the same way with foster care. You find out that your heart expands with love. The more children that come, the more love your heart expands. And I don't want to be a Pollyanna here, because there were a lot of difficult times. The kids came with challenges. There's no question. I mean, we had incidents happen to us because of the foster children. But I want to say overall, it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it, because we weren't thinking just in the short term or just in the temporary. We were thinking about eternity, because what we saw is that if we could pour into these kids in a difficult time in their life, we knew that in their 20s they'd probably mellow out. And so we wanted to just give them a picture of stability for as long as we could.
Right. Congressman Michele Bachmann is our guest. Did your children ever then, or do they now, the children, your biological children, did they ever resent the presence of this almost revolving door of people that you were taking in? And that's great that you were doing it, but this was affecting their childhood.
Yeah, it really was, and that's why we were really thoughtful about it before we made the decision, because we knew we had to answer to God for how we reared our own biological children. And so we thought about it carefully, but also I think our advantage was that our biological children were younger. And so they required all my time during the daytime, but we put them to bed early, and then we focused exclusively on our teenage foster daughters in the evening. So they really got good personalized one-on-one time from us in the evening. But when our oldest biological son turned 16, that's when my husband and I turned to each other and said, from what we had learned from being foster parents, we really believe that children need you more as teenagers than even as babies, because they need to know you're paying attention to them. They need to know that you know where they are and that you're engaged with them mentally and emotionally. And so we didn't want to deprive our biological kids of that by being too distracted. And so when our oldest son turned 16, that's when we let the foster care agency know that we couldn't do it anymore, and we had to end our time being foster parents, because we felt that we had to be true to our biological children. And now this fall, after 29 years of parenting, we just sent our last biological child off to college. And so I can just tell you, it's been a rewarding run being parents to 28 kids.
Wow. Congressman Michele Bachmann, how many of those children, are you still in touch with all of them?
Well, no, not all of them, but we are still in touch with some of them. And because we had them at the end of their high school career, was to turn their hearts back to their biological mom and dad. There were certainly strains in those relationships, but we kept trying to smooth the path, because we knew by that point we wouldn't be displacing their biological parent. We knew that they would probably have some sort of a relationship with their biological family. So we weren't their therapists, but we tried to reunite them with their biological mom and dad, because ultimately I think every kid wants to know that they have their parents' blessing. And that's one thing we tried to do, is reunite those families in thoughts and words and deeds. And because we knew that in a few years things would calm down, and most likely they'd want to reunite that relationship.